I'm Natasha Kehimkar, Chief People Officer at App Annie.
Hi Natasha, thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, day 3 of Vegas here with the HR Transform.
Yep.
I'm really excited to sit down with you today and just kind of dive in a little bit more about your passion and interest in the people and HR space. I'd love to kind of start with how you got into this space in the first place. What is your background? Tell me, why'd you stay?
I grew up in a house with a mother who was an HR professional. My mother was a career HR person as far as I knew, at least from the time she moved to Canada. And when I was born, I grew up hearing some of the stories that, we can't write in a book. So,
yes.
and later I just pursued the degrees and pursued a career in HR. And then when I met my husband, my now husband, so it turned out his father was in HR too. His entire career. So I have a mother and a father-in-law. We can share some really interesting war stories.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's in the family.
And to swap tips and tricks too?
We all focused on different areas of HR. So my mother was much more on grading and comp and labor management in the universities and colleges scenario in Ontario. And my father-in-law was more traditional HR. And he at one point was the head of HR for Dole, then went on to Kamehameha Schools and Queen's Medical Center in Hawaii.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Wow, so it really does run in the blood, right?
It's in the family. It's the weirdest thing.
Yes. No, that's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, obviously, I have that with my sister.
Yes.
So it's a big thing there. And you've been involved with the kind of HR and people space within the Bay Area for a long time, and specifically with People Tech Partners and the growth that's happened there and the collaboration that we're seeing on a daily basis with those leaders. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got involved there and what's going on?
When I moved to the Bay Area just over 5 years ago, I needed to build a network. I didn't really know anybody. And I had at my company, Sequoia Consulting, as our broker. And they invited me to an event that Robbie was hosting, and Kara, I think, was there as well. And so it was one of the very early community building sessions that they were hosting. And so I had been introduced to this cohort very early on and have just been so excited to be part of this broader network of people who are unfiltered, sharing their experiences, sharing what they want to learn, their gaps, and just benefiting from being around one another. It's been phenomenal, and to see that community grow and now turn into People Tech Partners and something where we're able to advise companies is just amazing.
I want to dive into the companies in just a minute, but one of the things that I've been hearing from a lot of leaders this week in particular is the value of the vulnerability within our community and the willingness of a lot of these very seasoned top HR and people executives to come forward with the areas that they've had challenges or in some places even failures, and bringing forward that information and that knowledge and really cracking it open so that others can learn from it, or maybe when they're in the midst of it, they can actually find a way out with the expertise and knowledge of the others around them. Just any comments on that or experiences that you've had?
There is a realness that we expect in this group. I think there's some things that we can do better. I think to come with a point of view as opposed to just asking the raw question, I think would be very helpful for us, and it makes us stronger too, to do our own little homework and then come together and say, okay, here's what I've learned, here's what I'm thinking, what have you done? But there are a couple of people in our group especially that I want to follow them. Like they're just, the depth of their thinking and the depth of their contribution is remarkable, and I think I aspire to be at that level, and I know many of the rest of us do as well. But I think what's most powerful is that we have built connections where we don't only operate in that group. We operate individually or in smaller groups as well. So it's got little nice splinters. It's got nice offshoots, is probably a better word, that we've built connections that I think are much longer lasting. And now being in a larger group setting like this conference, I'm meeting people who are the chapter leader in Southern California, and okay, we've got some connections, we need to do some work together. I have some recommendations for her, she has some for me. Those are very powerful. They're incredibly powerful. And when you're at a company and you are the lead of the people and talent function, where do you learn? And it's not that you don't learn from your peers and from your CEO. We do. That would be naive to say we don't. But the opportunity to learn with others and have someone challenge you and know that they're doing it from a place of care and love and support and wanting to learn more themselves, it's enriching in a way that you don't get elsewhere, or I haven't experienced elsewhere.
That's amazing. That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. Let's dive in a little bit to your involvement with the companies. So, at People Tech Partners, we have a few sides to the house. We obviously have our advisors, which include our people and HR leaders, and then we have the companies and the innovators and these founders that are really coming in with a co-build mentality and reaping the benefits of this learning environment and feedback that they gain. You've worked very closely with several of the companies that we have. I'd love to kind of dive in a little bit there and talk about your involvement and which companies you've been connected with.
There's something very powerful about the relationship we have with our companies in People Tech. Part of it is, I think, the companies know that we are invested in them personally. Sometimes it's because we're a customer, sometimes it's because we have passion for the product, sometimes it's because we just like the people. And I think that makes it a greater opportunity. There's more interest and desire for us to contribute. I worked with Reflective. They're one of our partners. I don't like to call them vendors because when we learn from one another, it's a partnership. When they had their conference, I sought out somebody that I could talk to about the product because I had ideas. And I said, don't make me go to someone else for this other stuff that I know you can do. And building on what you have, it can be incredible. And it makes it much more sticky for me and for everybody else. And by the way, it can get you into larger enterprise organizations. And they were very willing to listen. I must have spoken to 3 people at the conference and then had people from the product team come to our offices at App Annie to sit down with me to dig in a little bit more. They may not do the things that I'm asking, but I felt heard. I know that they realized I had their best interests at heart. And if they go in that direction, terrific. If not, they've taken it into consideration. And that's really all that I was looking for. I also have had the opportunity to partner with Hone. I'm a big fan of Hone. Our company, we're about 350 people. We're in 10 countries. We are all over the place. And so in terms of distribution of our workforce, the opportunity to have some concentrated focus, have a manager boot camp where I can seed people from different markets and put them together and learn as a group and ask them teaser questions in the beginning and follow-up questions at the end. That's something that I talked to Hone about, of how do you make the learning more sticky. What they're doing is fantastic because it's spread over time. But what would make it even better is if their manager, the people going through the boot camp, if their manager pinged them and said, hey, I have this one question for you. You did this session. It tricks the brain into learning and remembering that what they learned was important.
Prioritizing
and Hone has now implemented these questions. They've shared those questions with me so I can put them out to the managers of the people in the boot camp and make the learning more sticky. That boot camp is very special. It comes out of my budget. I don't charge back, and I tell people directly that they've been nominated. It is a serious gift. And most of the managers that I put through it are incredibly grateful and feel very safe in that cohort. So I think Hone's doing something very special as well. There's one other company that I think is pretty remarkable, and that's Carrot. And I have a personal affinity for what they do, having gone through some significant challenges in family building with my husband over the course of, he reminded me last night when I talked to him about it, over the course of 7 years.
Wow.
We went through challenges building a family.
I love that, family building. That's exactly what it is. That's such a great
It is
term,
family building, and there's language that matters when you're going through that fertility issues or family building scenarios or challenges that one might have. Using terms like loss or losing a baby. These are not words that make anybody feel good.
No.
And it puts the failure on the couple or the person who's trying to build their family, and that's not where it rests. And so I think what Carrot is doing is really special. I think we underestimate the impact of time and energy and productivity loss that comes with someone who's working through family building challenges.
Yes.
We don't talk about that, and that's where Carrot, I think, can make a huge difference. So I look forward to talking with them and working with them more. going
That's
forward.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you touched on that. My background, obviously to me, but my background was I was head of customer success at LeaveLogic before coming over to People Tech Partners. So that family building and that life event support was something that I was working through as a part of my career, and helping other families support. I also have personal stories of what that path looked like for me, and it was not a straight line. And it is so important, the language that's being used and the support that's being provided at work. From the LeaveLogic perspective, we were coming at that from the ability to plan a leave and understand what benefits were even available to you, whether that's at your employer, state, federal government, wherever they might be coming. And that information needs to be accessible maybe even before you're planning or before you're on the definitive path to expanding your family. And so it's just so cool to see that we're touching on that. Parental inclusion is one of those initiatives you mentioned, kind of these little cohorts or splinters within People Tech Partners. And one of the things that we try to do, and I think we're doing really well just naturally, is that people are connecting with each other on the HR and people leader side around the things that they're most passionate about. So parental inclusion is one of those sections that I see a lot of that happening. We have lots of other initiatives that people seem to be focused on, and then they kind of gather up and support the companies in that area, or support the thought leadership in those areas, and that's really, really powerful.
I think it's very exciting to see where parental inclusion is going.
Yes.
As an adoptive parent of 2 children, I didn't know where to go to learn how to diaper a baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so the hospitals offer programs and clinics offer programs for parents or a mother who is delivering a baby.
Yes. Yes.
That was not us. We were picking a baby up in another
Right.
country. Taking leave is required. It's not a nice to have. So if you're living in a state, thankfully I was living in New Jersey at the time, but if you're living in a state that doesn't offer paid parental leave, what do you do if your company doesn't either? So it's very challenging, and a lot of the companies that do some return to work support for parents, etc., I think there's still some work to do when it comes to adoptive parents that is not entirely considered. And I think if that's a perspective I can bring, both my husband and I are very open about our family building challenges now. My children are comfortable with us talking about it as well publicly. So whatever little I can do to help with not only with what companies like Carrot are doing, but other companies to help make it more inclusive for adoptive families, so much the better.
That's wonderful, and that's a very important perspective to bring, so that it is touching all families, and families don't look the same, and we don't want them to. And I do appreciate that about Carrot. I know they're very mindful of including family building in every version of whatever that looks like. I know that they're coming out with actually like a glossary of how do we talk about this, and what words can people use, so that we're not, in effect, impacting negatively the parents who are in the midst of this, or the families after they've been created, whatever it might be. One of the things I hear in kind of how you're describing the companies and People Tech Partners and how you engage with them is that they seem to come to the table with a preparedness to listen. And I know that that's something that internally at People Tech Partners we really try to work with them on, so I'm actually really happy to hear that. When they go through our programming, we put them through kind of a bit of boot camp of our own to try to prepare them for the fact that bad news is still really good news. Bad feedback is really important for you to get, because you're going to get it in a circle of trust and a safe space.
Yes.
And get it now before you're pitching to the company you actually want to get to. So any other thoughts you have or experiences you have on that, how you've helped companies understand the value of listening, or how you've seen these companies come with a preparedness to listen, or not, honestly?
One of the best sessions that I participated in was with Terminal.io. I thought they were fantastic. I love what they're offering, but the level of engagement of all of us as advisors and the Terminal team was amazing. It was done over lunch, so people are probably trying to scarf down their meals, but the dialogue was incredible. And part of it was we were very excited about their offering. I mean, it is remarkable. It's pretty special. And we're all struggling with some of the issues that they're trying to solve. So it was a nice kind of an immediate solution that you could implement. But the conversation was really strong. The addressing of the concerns, or saying, that's a really good question, let me dig into that, very powerful. Some of the face-to-face sessions that I've participated in as well have been really good. And in fact, I ran into one of the founders here,
good.
and he said, "Oh, you asked really good questions." And I said, "Well, that means you were really listening."
Yeah.
And I think the preparation that we do for our companies is clearly working.
Yeah.
There is another company that I want to introduce to People Tech Partners, and I've been talking to them for about a year now. They're ready.
Awesome.
And they know that this is a safe environment. Yes, potential customers, of course,
Yes.
but the opportunity to talk to people that could be customers and want you to be successful, it's very different than going and cold calling a company that's you're trying to sell to and they're really not invested in you.
Totally.
And I think the thing that's different about what we do at People Tech Partners is it's a longer term relationship. So it's not come and do your feedback session and it's done. It doesn't operate that way. It doesn't feel that way. So that same feeling that I had when I first moved here and was participating in these Sequoia Consulting sponsored meetups and events, it's that same feeling of you're becoming part of a community, becoming part of something very special that is now translating into dollars for your company, success for your company, great, great rounds of financing for your company, and a great new customer base for your company.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to see that trajectory
Yes.
for these organizations.
I actually was talking to the founder of Sage, who is one of our more recent companies, just went through programming in Q1 of 2019. And he actually said that last night when he was coming to, this is kind of the first big gathering that they've, as a company, have come to with our advisors in attendance as well. And his comment was, it just clicked for me, and I just realized that this doesn't end at the end of my programming. Like it was so cool to see that companies that have been with People Tech for, since the beginning are here and presenting and talking and engaging with advisors, and he mentally had to prepare for the fact that I'm going to be supported, and this is going to be a thing. Like I can rely on this group long term while I really do come into the market and make a change. And so I thought that was really cool and a testament to what the leaders are doing to help these companies on a continuous basis.
I think one of the things that's also really good about People Tech Partners is that we're asking each company to take on one or two advisors. And that also locks in that partnership.
Yes.
That makes it very real. That makes it ongoing. There's a commitment there. And it's beyond kind of those one and done, those feedback sessions that we may do. But there is this ongoing commitment, this agreement that we're in this together. And I think it further solidifies that connection that we're trying to build.
That's awesome.